If you complain a lot and you want to stop because it's such a negative thing, then watch this video, because I used to complain so much more than I do now. It didn't make me feel better about my circumstances or change anything. And it was actually me speaking negativity over my own life and circumstances. Now I don't complain very much, and I'm a lot more happy and positive in general. So if you want to get to where I am, I'm going to tell you exactly what I had to do. Because like I said in my last video, I'm here to better myself for myself. And I'm sure you are too. First of all, we really need to get to the root of the problem so that we can learn to critique with purpose. So ask yourself, why is it that you complain? There's a couple reasons why complaining is a character trait of some people, and one of the reasons is because they're just an overall negative person. Now, for some of these people, they're so negative because they've had pain in their past and trauma that they don't want to relive, and so it's safer to be negative about the future so that they don't get their hopes up and then get disappointed when, nothing good actually happens, just like in the past. One of the most common reasons people complain is just simply to manage their emotions. This is kind of subconscious. Nobody actually thinks, I need to manage my emotions now, so I'm going to share how I feel. But we do. It's like venting, And we hope to lessen the severity of the distressing situation just by talking about it and getting it out. Other times people complain about other people specifically in a really critical way, because it goes back to the basic Hollywood bully on the playground mentality. Because if you think about it, the bully on the playground, when they go home, they're being abused or they're not validated or something like that. So when they're around other people, they're mean and they put other people down because they're insecure. So a lot of people are doing that in the safety of their own home behind the other person's back, just being really critical, critiquing all the time and complaining about other people, not because of the other people, but because they're insecure about themselves. And if they push people down, they feel like they can raise themselves up. And we all know that people complain more when they're in a bad mood. The problem with this, though, is that the complaining leads to further negativity and a worse mood, and it's like a vicious cycle that just continues. Either way, the problem with complaining is that it's problem focused, and we need to start being solution focused. For example, in my own life, my 2-year-old was in the bathroom and I was standing in front of our mirror, and she said, I can't see into the mirror. And I told her, you need to say, Mommy, can you please move? I would like to see into the mirror. And that's what I mean when I say that complaining is problem focused, because she just complained. She just said, this is my problem. I can't see into the mirror. And it puts the effort onto the other person, the person you're complaining to come up with your solution for your problem. And we need to be positive minded if we're ever going to live positive lives, right? And have positive outcomes. So like I told her, she needs to not only say the problem, which is applicable to the situation, which is fine, but she also needs to say, so can you do this instead? And think of her own solution. And that's the crux of the issue, because where your focus is, that's where you're going. We don't want to focus on the problems. We don't want more of them, right? I feel like this is a huge reason why so many people these days suffer from negativity, anxiety, depression, poor mental health, chronic worrying, and even nightmares, because we're just so consumed with the problems of our own lives. But now through social media, we also kind of carry the problems of the world. But let's do this for you. If you can answer these questions honestly, then you can kind of figure out more if you really are a person who complains a lot and needs to work on it. So objectively look at your life and the things that you think and say and do, and ask yourself, do I try to find solutions to my problems? This would be exactly like my daughter saying she needs to look in the mirror. Are we talking just about the problem, or are we also bringing in solutions and coming up with ideas? Do I reminisce about past negative events? For example, thinking about or talking to people about negative events in the past for really no reason other than to recount them. That doesn't help you. And like I said in my last video, it's okay to analyze and think through negative events and rejection and heartbreak and all everything, because we can learn from negative events. But if we're just reliving them and talking about them and bringing them into the present, it just brings negativity into where we are now for no reason at all. Next question for you to ask yourself is, do I have anxiety about the future and worry that more things are gonna go wrong? I feel like so many people do this nowadays. It'd be like, okay, so there's a party coming up and maybe you're not the best person socially, and you think back to like in high school when you embarrassed yourself and people laughed at you. Like, are you gonna let the past and the worry that you're gonna repeat the past make you more anxious and more nervous and more susceptible to actually messing up this upcoming party? Or are you gonna think, okay, how did that happen? How do I avoid that? How do I do better this time? And go from there. You can definitely see how complaining and negativity taints our future and definitely becomes what we live in. Because most of our living is actually in our heads. I realized that like a little while ago, but it's like I'm constantly hearing my own thoughts and thinking my own things and perceiving the world through my filter, and my reality is in my head. And the good news is that we're in control of that. I mean, hopefully. But it takes a lot of work and practice, and this is part of it. Next question, am I an overall negative person? For instance, think of like if someone asked you out or you were offered a new job. Is your first like reaction and instinct to think, well, this seems too good to be true, and I'm sure these people will eventually reject me like everyone else? Do you bring that into your mind, or are you thinking, wow, this is awesome. I don't know where this is gonna go. It could be really cool though. Do I usually feel helpless or hopeless? Am I overcome in like the dark moments when I'm alone and we don't have the distractions of social media or friends? Do we feel just like overwhelmed in a negative way and think that everything kind of sucks? Lastly, ask yourself, have people pulled away from me because of my negative and complaining behavior? And this can be hard to judge because people pull away for a lot of reasons, even their own reasons that are unrelated to like our character or whatever. But some of us probably have had the advantage of someone actually telling us, hey, like, your complaining is a buzzkill, or whatever you want to say. So think through certain scenarios and friendships you've had and really look into, why did they end? Is it my fault? Was I complaining too much? Whatever your answers to these questions are, on the surface level, basically complaining is just all about making ourselves feel better and more validated in our position. And this is the initial goal of the complainer, but what I've noticed is that if we dive deeper into the issue, there's actually like subconscious motivators as to why people complain a whole bunch. And we really can't solve the problem of complaining without addressing these deeper motivators as well. Basically, what I mean is that whether a behavior is good or bad, there's observable reasons why someone might want to do it. But there's also like a deeper reason tied to the personality of the person who does this behavior. For example, real estate is a great business, right? It's lucrative. People make tons of money doing it, but not everybody does it. There's a lot of rich people not doing it. Well, why is that? It's because they have certain characteristics and personality traits that are pulling them in a different direction. Even though real estate probably would make most people quite a bit of money, not everyone does it just because they're different people. So not everyone is a chronic complainer, even though if everyone complained a whole bunch, they would still initially receive validation and like relief from their emotions. And that's because we have deeper motivators at work when it comes to people's chronic complaining. So what are they? We've already touched on this, but chronic complainers, people who complain a lot, whatever, they don't offer solutions. And if you think about it, offering a solution takes effort and work. Many people don't want to stop thinking of themselves, first of all, and it's just a lot more work than complaining. Because complaining is basically spewing your problems onto some other person so that they can give you something. Maybe you're looking for sympathy, someone to agree with you so you feel validated. Or maybe you're sharing your complaints because you want someone else to fix them for you. That seems pretty common to me. For instance, in my own life, my friend was saying that he had some issues with an ex-coworker and he really wanted to talk them out. But he was frustrated because he wanted the coworker to come to him to talk through it. And he just wasn't. His coworker wasn't doing anything and he was like annoyed. I found myself explaining to him that like, first of all, your ex-coworker can't read your brain. Maybe he doesn't even know that something is wrong. And if you're the one with the problem, then, and like you can speak and think, you should solve your own problem and initiate the conversation. Especially if we're capable of complaining about the issue, then the same person can also fix the issue or try to fix the issue for themselves. That seems pretty basic to me, but more on that in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so if we're honest about these deeper reasons for complaining, we can basically see that it's laziness. And I know that's like such like anticlimactic, but people don't want to solve their own problems, so they complain a whole bunch. We want other people to take care of our feelings. We want other people to feel bad for us and lick our wounds, which leaves us overly reliant in a really unhealthy way on other people to take care of us. Do you know how dangerous that is? People aren't going to do it, first of all. And then we're just left feeling like no one cares about us or hears what we're saying. We talked about this in my last video about capitalizing on rejection, but no one is going to take care of you like you and God. And no one, absolutely no one, not even God, is going to do the work for you. So it's really important that we don't fall into this rut of like mentally leaning on other people in an unhealthy way. We need to grow up. It's called adulting these days. I think that's so stupid. It's just called life. You're only a kid for 18 years. You're alive for hopefully a lot more than that. And if you are a Christian, we really need to remember, and this is so powerful, that we live with victory behind us at the cross. Okay, so we're just walking out this victory. We're not like, oh, when will I be victorious? When will I be free? Blah, blah, blah. Christ has attained our freedom for us, but we have to believe it and walk in it every day, or we're going to be as depressed and complaining and negative as the rest of the world. At the end of the day, whether you complain in like a calm, passive, gossipy type of way, or a really angry, in-your-face, aggressive way, it's pretty toxic behavior. And despite us thinking that complaining will alleviate these negative emotions, there are studies out there that say that it actually makes them worse. Rather than releasing emotions, it can amplify them. So we're really not even accomplishing what we want anyways. And yeah, it may be helpful to like work through them in therapy when you're with a professional who has a lot of great training and tools to actually help you improve through these difficult things you're encountering. But complaining on its own still doesn't actually change any of the negative emotions that arise from actual problems that we have in our life. Like, we need to solve the problems. The negative emotions are a symptom of them. Okay, great. Complaining is bad. Now what? How do we stop complaining? How do we become solution-minded? First of all, and don't get overwhelmed, but the standard is pretty high when it comes to not complaining. The Bible tells us to do all things without complaining. And when I was younger, I did not understand this, because when you Google complaining, it basically just says to express dissatisfaction with something. And it's like, okay, how do we even solve problems without talking about the problem itself? That doesn't make sense. And truly the opposite of complaining is constructive criticism. And I know like some of you are cringing right now because we don't like that either. But it's not a matter of like not talking about problems and brushing them under the rug, because that's an entirely different issue. It's a matter of talking about problems with a solution in mind, with a purpose. Constructive criticism still addresses the issue, but it does not leave it where it's at. For instance, when Jesus talked to the woman caught in adultery, he told her that she should go and sin no more. He met her where she was at, acknowledged the issue, but didn't leave her there. He gave her a suggestion that would have a positive influence on her life. And constructive criticism doesn't look like telling other people what to do and being bossy, okay? A lot of people think that. A lot of passive people think that. And so they just like avoid suggesting things to people, which isn't good. Proper constructive criticism looks like saying, I would like blah, 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 blah. Or could we do this? What are your thoughts on this? So you're not like saying, we need to do this. This is our solution. You're sharing your thoughts, but also giving opportunity for the other person who may be involved to share their thoughts, so you can work as a team and still have your needs met, but also be considerate of other people's needs, because they may be different. And if you have someone in your life who literally cannot handle constructive criticism when it is packaged in a loving, thoughtful way, like the examples I just gave you, then that is them showing that they're insecure and they basically need to go watch my last video. So here's an example of constructive criticism from my own life. So when I was younger, we were at church, and I'm introverted, so back in the day when I wasn't confident and I hadn't developed proper social skills, crowds were like really stressful for me, and I just was like, I don't want to engage. And that day, my sister, who's great with people, she's awesome and super easy to get along with, she walks up to me and says, "You look grumpy, you need to uncross your arms." And initially, like, I was annoyed because it's like, leave me alone. I can cross my arms. There's nothing wrong with that. But as I've gotten older, it's like she's right. I would like to have people come up and talk to me, you know? I would like to have proper social interaction and excel socially. Yeah, she did complain saying, "You look grumpy," like that's a put down by itself, but she paired it with, "Oh, here's your solution. You should uncross your arms." And if you look at the heart of these people who are giving constructive criticism, it should be because, like my sister, she loved me. She wanted me to excel. She wanted me to be like, show that I'm a nice, happy person because she knew that I was. It's just that, you know, I wasn't showing it. So now we know what we need to do in general. We need to think about the solution. But how do we do that like day to day? How do we implement that? It all comes down to healthy habits. We have to replace our bad habits with healthy ones. But first, if this video has been helpful to you and you've enjoyed it, please give it a like and consider subscribing. So some things you can do to help with complaining in general and just like positivity is to start journaling, and this is kind of synonymous with praying. A lot of people journal out their prayers just to stay more focused, and I do this every day. It's great. And this is a place where you can share your complaints or you can vent, because God is not someone you're going to push away. And he's also someone who will give you helpful suggestions. Another thing you can do if you get overwhelmed with negative emotions, you know, sometimes circumstances arise where it's like, I just really need to cry, you know, and just think of this through. So something that I've done in the past is just like write an angry letter or something if there's a person causing some issues, but never send it, obviously, because it won't help out the situation. But just like get your thoughts out and prayerfully consider what's going on. Another thing you can do is to think from other people's perspectives. Again, people hate doing this. It takes work and it takes like moments of unselfishness, which is difficult. But this will help you so much when establishing a heart of grace, because when we stop thinking about like, oh, this makes me feel this way or blah, 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 we can start to see that, well, maybe this person doesn't have the tools to talk in a nice way. Maybe this person didn't even realize what they did. Maybe this person is going through like a divorce, or they have a kid with autism and they're just maxed out. Yeah, it doesn't lessen what happened to us, but it gives us more grace. And when we have grace with other people, it can really soften our own feelings because we can think from their perspective, not just our own. And this ties into how people these days read into so much. Like there's certain actions that one person will think is completely fine, or you said something some way just because like you want it to be clear, and the person you're speaking to or the person you did it to is really offended because in their brain it means this about your character and what you think of them and all this stuff. And it's like, I would really encourage you, something that has freed me so much in my own mind is to just stop reading into what people are doing and saying, and even just think, well, maybe they're just having a bad day and they took it out on me and it has nothing to do with me. They're the one with the problem. Another habit you can do, and this like literally has changed my life. C.S. Lewis said this somewhere, I don't know, but basically we need to realize that life is not a place for fun and vacations like we hope it is. It's a training ground. Okay, he kind of gives this analogy that like if people are put into a prison and half of the people know it's a prison and the other half think that it's like a hotel, how much more happy are the people who know what they're in for gonna be than the people who are expecting room service and soft sheets, you know? So it comes down to managing expectations and realizing that like life is difficult and we are supposed to be refined by the Holy Spirit through the challenges of life and working with him so that we can become more Christ-like. Life is not necessarily about cotton candy and butterflies. And it might be a little bit like, oh, but we're already living it, right? Like we all know life sucks. So once we accept it and expect it and choose to be positive despite it, it's actually really freeing. This is an obvious solution to complaining, but thoughtfully minimize complaining. Literally, be quiet. If you catch yourself with a complaint escaping your lips, shut up. Just catch it. eat it up. Or if you catch it before it comes out of your mouth or whatever, and you're like thinking about it, choose to say something positive instead, and not just something positive about life in general, but positive about the situation you are just about to complain about. Also, we can talk to someone who will help you think and do better. My mom, for instance, is great at this because she is pretty blunt and in your face, which I like. I don't know about all y'all, but it's great because she holds me accountable. Because if I'll be complaining or something, she'll be like, well, I mean, this person has this and this and this, and I think you're kind of being ridiculous. Having those people in your life can be annoying in you know, because it's like, I just want to be selfish right now, but it's actually really good. So if you can find someone who can do that for you, that'd be great. We also should try to replace negative thoughts and words. For example, I don't cuss, and I know a lot of Christians do, and a lot of Christians don't feel convicted doing it. Great. That's between you and the Holy Spirit. The Bible isn't clear on it, but I just think, like, from a logical standpoint, there's no cuss word that brings positivity. Some of them can be funny, I guess, sure, but it's still a put down at the end of the day. So just choosing your words wisely, you know, the Bible says that the tongue has the power of hell in it. It's pretty important. So consider what you're saying and how you could change that. And it does take a lot of effort and a lot of time to, like, tame the tongue, but it can be really beneficial. Finally, this is pretty obvious, but practice gratitude. You can do this really easily by going to the link in the description. I've got a free weekly gratitude reflection worksheet you can download, and it just helps you work through, like, okay, what do I literally have to be grateful about? What is good where I am? Because really, contentment is the key to happiness, not getting new stuff. It'll never be enough. These are the things that I've implemented to stop complaining so much, and honestly, it has impacted my life so much because I know that I am free from dragging myself down and other people down. I try to support others with positive solutions, and I also know that I have practiced this for myself, which allows me to be quick in solving my own problems so that I don't even have these negative emotions that I would complain about for very long. I just get to the problem and get it done with, which has built my confidence and my happiness and joy and freedom and, like, positive outlook in my life in general. I know that I'm going to a positive place in my future because this is my mindset, and I've conditioned myself to put in the work when problems arise. My life is now pretty stress-free because problem solving has become pretty easy, and I know that I can do a lot of things, especially with God with me. And since He won't leave me, there's not a lot to complain about. Being able to handle criticism from others will help you be more comfortable giving constructive criticism. So if that's something you want to work on, I would suggest watching my last video, which is all about capitalizing on rejection and heartbreak. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video helped you. If you could give it a like and subscribe, that would be awesome. See you next time.